seconds.
And then look at another one, like, oh my God, no, we're back now.
Yep.
Hey folks, I was muted. I figured that out a lot faster than that one time. Welcome to So Chatty. I'm your host, So Matty Games, aka Matty, and yeah, I make mistakes. I'm human. Hey, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so nothing like forgetting to unmute yourself. Yeah, that's a good feeling. Yeah, and I've rearranged the thing a little just because yeah, someone made a comment that I was like a lord over his minions, and I don't like that feeling. The show's not about me. My name's on the show, but it's not about me. It's about these three people here and getting to know them a lot better. Because you know enough about me, you know. My first guest, he is a RPG designer. He has his own podcast. He's written a lot. Okay, I've done a lot of research here. I was really amazed, and I think we're gonna fall in love with this gentleman. You'll know him as Nerdburger Craig online. Craig, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me by.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Top-notch pre-production.
I know, right?
But I say that as a fellow, like a fellow podcaster type person who we blow the pre-production all the time because it's more fun to not be professional. Sometimes.
I mean, it's you do your best, but it's like I'm working out of my house here, folks. This is how Twitch works. There's no big corporation here. It's just me, and
that's okay. That's cool.
Blessed by the folks at the Cable One company for the internet service. Thank you. My next guest is someone that, honestly, I've been talking to this fella online for almost a year now. Though I just, like a few days ago, learned his first name for the first time, and you probably are now too. You know him as the Elfiest Elf. None elfier is my buddy Brad. How you doing, bud?
Not bad. I'm excited and nervous to be here, and I don't know why that one part, but I know why I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, it's okay. Nerves. Honestly, this is, I think, episode 11 or something like that. And I've been streaming D&D games since, like, January. I get nervous every time. Every fucking time. Okay? And that was the first F-bomb to drop because, Devin, I love you. I don't know if you're here yet or if you're going to be here, but I love you. And, yeah, she brought me out of my F-bomb shell.
F-bomb shell.
F-bomb shelter.
There we go. F-bomb shelter. That's good. I like that. Oh, there we go. Oh, hey, we are learning a lot about Brad here today. And excellent. And my final guest is one of the amazing folks from the CastleMac channel and just an all-around upstanding. Wow.
Upstanding. I am that.
I talk real good today. Great for a chat show, Matt. He's an outstanding individual, someone I love. Sean, CastleMac Sean. Sean, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I'm stoked to get so chatty.
I'm stoked to have you on.
I'm seeing the chat's already blowing up on the side too. See a lot of familiar
I know.
Screen name.
It is.
I'd say faces, but it's more name.
Oh, wow. And that is a lot of castles. Holy heck. Awesome. I love you guys. You're all fantastic. So one of the things I love to ask people when they come on the show, because this really is a talk show that's centered around the TTRPG Twitter community. It's really love to talk about tabletop role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, and the whole lot. So I like to ask about people's introductions to TTRPGs. And so, Craig, um, this is this is the first time that we're talking, and I think we just pretty much met on Twitter just maybe a couple weeks ago. Um, so even though I've done quite a few research, there are a lot of things that I can't read from like your Twitter feed and whatnot. So will you tell us about your introduction to tabletop role playing games?
Sure. We go all the way back to spring semester of college, my first year, and just before summer hit, just before the semester was over, a friend of mine that I had met at college, Brian, said, "Hey, you should play this game." He had been playing D&D for a very long time.
Okay.
And I just, for whatever reason, had never quite hit on playing it in high school. It took until college. And we played, he ran me and his roommate and another fella through one session of a Ravenloft adventure.
Okay.
And my half-elven bard almost got eaten by, well, he did get kind of partially eaten, but he escaped from the mouth of a giant frog in the marsh as we were pushing ourselves on the raft through the marsh. And there was other Ravenlofty hijinks. And then I proceeded to never play Ravenloft again.
Okay, that's fair.
But then that summer, bought the books, absorbed it all, came back that next year. We started playing Forgotten Realms, and it just blew up from there into all sorts of D&D, all sorts of other games.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Designing your own. So that would be second edition AD&D, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
1991 we played.
Okay, 91. Awesome. That was like I think I think I started in 92. Yeah. President's Day 1992. I do remember this. Cuz I was in high school. But but my friends were all hardcore first edition AD&D folks, and they were very against second edition. I think only one or two friends actually bought second edition books and played it and stuff like that. And then eventually, I did end up playing Dark Sun, which I really loved.
Nice. Oh yeah, that was the one that I kind of fell in love with. That there was a group of us, and each person, like my friend Tag, he ran most of the stuff. He ran Forgotten Realms, and then each of us kind of had another little game, like another setting in D&D or a game that we would be like the primary GM on. And every so often we'd split around to other stuff. And Dark Sun was the one that I fiddled around with a little bit. And then I had a friend who was their thing was Star Wars, huge Star Wars fan. So it was the West End D6 Star Wars game.
Nice.
That he ran that when he ran stuff. And there was one guy who ran Shadowrun occasionally, and second edition Shadowrun, I believe it was at the time.
Yeah, that was that. Like as you say, like we had a group of friends, and each of us, we had a really good D&D DM, and he was just phenomenal, and none of us could ever run it like him. But we all kind of found our niches, and Shadowrun was like my game. That was the one that I ran, and it was second edition. It was complicated, but fun.
Yeah, a little bit.
It still is, and I have no interest in ever playing that game again. But it's a cool.
And there's plenty of people who do. So that's the beauty of the gaming scene right now, is that if you can think of a game, as far as genre goes, as far as level of crunch, as far as traditional versus indie versus something in between, you can find it. And if you can't find it, it's probably going to be on Kickstarter in the next year.
Yes. And that is the great thing, though, nowadays, especially with the proliferation of being able to buy games via PDF and stuff like that online. It's so much easier to get them. It's so much easier to, get them out there. But obviously there's the pitfalls of getting enough eyeballs on it and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Which we will definitely touch on that subject, but we just brought up Shadowrun, and Brad here, he was just involved in a Shadowrun campaign that was being run on the Thread Raiders Twitch channel every other Tuesday. Now they are playing Starfinder, and this is run by our friend Tyler, aka Canthos88. And full disclosure, folks, yes, I am a Thread Raider. I talk about Thread Raiders a lot. I love them. We will dominate your lives with talk about pizza and tacos and blow up your notifications and stuff like that. That's what we do. Anyway, so Brad, what about your introduction to TTRPGs?
Oh, I had always wanted to play, although I grew up with some very, very Christian parents, and there was the whole satanic panic, and
Yeah.
my chunk of the country is about a decade or so behind everywhere else. So even in the 90s, they were still, don't play that, that's the devil. And I clearly knew it, maybe that happens, but that's people taking things way too far. That happens with anything.
Anything, yeah, really, yeah.
So I eventually picked up some 3.5 books and never played that. I picked up, the core set because somebody was going to do something. That never happened because I grew up super rural. Next person was about 5 clicks away. That's several miles.
Okay.
Kilometers, clicks.
Clicks.
Someone found the Canadian now.
That's right. That's right,
I knew that
folks.
from Predator.
Folks at home, if you didn't know this, the Alpheus Elf, aka Brad, is Canadian. Yes.
Yeah. So eventually I found just a group of Twitter people from somewhere I used to hang out with. We did some Pathfinder over Skype.
Okay.
That didn't last too long. And then eventually I moved to a place with actual people in it. And I met, you might have seen him around Twitter, Canaduchian.
Yes.
Yeah. I met him because I knew his significant other through NaNoWriMo, I don't know, for a few years. And then I need to find a D&D group now that I'm up here. Well, and went from basically not playing D&D to playing D&D 5 out of 7 days a week.
You play a lot of D&D. I do know.
Yeah,
this. I do. Yeah. You're not like all over the Twitches, but yeah, you play a lot of D&D.
Mostly in person.
Yeah, which is awesome. I
Mostly
really
with the same 5 people, actually.
There's nothing wrong with that. I could tell you, I kind of, there are times I really, when I think back, to those days when I was in high school and there was like 10 or so of us, and that's all we did was play games, and oh man, good times, when you don't have adulting to do, and stuff like with your spouse and family and yada yada yada.
Yeah, we're all just nerds and try to plan our adulting around D&D.
Yeah. It's
usually it works out. Sometimes it doesn't.
We tend to manage okay these days. We're getting better, right? Okay, so 3.5 wasn't a game that you actually played.
I have built somewhere in there around when I moved up here, but before I started in this D&D campaign, 5e, I should say. Someone was like, "Oh, you can join my online 3.5 game. We're playing epic level, and everyone is a psionic." Okay, so I have about 30 3.5 books because I built one character.
It's a lot.
Yeah, because you need your PHB, your PHB2, your epic level book, your psionic handbook. The class I wanted was in a specific book. The race I wanted was in another book.
Yeah, that makes my brain hurt. I'm too old for that shit. Yep, too old. Nope, ain't gonna do it.
No.
Yeah. No, actually, because like I've said before, I, like I started a long time ago, but I stopped, and there was a long period of my life where I wasn't playing games at all. Um, I skipped right over 3 and 4. Like when I got back into D&D, 5 was just starting to come out, and and that was kind of like what was getting um, people around me more. I guess they were getting excited about getting back into the game and stuff, and so I was like, you know what? I haven't played this forever. I miss it, and I decided to grab that, and then it takes over your life, and it's fantastic. Um, I really do enjoy 5e. Um, so Sean, uh,
Matty.
we are going around the table. We are talking about our introductions to tabletop role-playing games. What about yours, good friend?
Well, similar to Brad's, the high priest of my satanic church introduced me to D&D as part of my initiation.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
uh,
We all have
no,
one.
it actually was a teacher though. So I played Magic the Gathering beforehand, and then
Okay.
a buddy of mine each picked up. It was definitely not D&D, but I think they were just D&D miniatures that we wanted to paint.
Oh, okay,
And
yeah.
we were just kind of going back and forth, and I was like, I don't know what this is supposed to do. They have some stats on them, but we were enjoying it. But then
Grr, I attack you.
yeah, I was like, I mean, I was like, this guy's this big, man, he's gonna beat you. but but yeah, I had an English teacher that I really connected to and I really liked, and we had played a couple Magic the Gathering games, like waiting after school. And then he was like, well, yeah, I played Dungeons and Dragons. And yeah, I started playing with him a little at school, and then a couple years went by to the point that I could drive.
Okay.
And then yeah, I would drive, and I played with like his high school friends. So it was definitely cool to start out that way, and it was definitely a healthier choice than the rest of the nights of what I did for the rest of high school. So I wish I'd done more D&D, kids.
I uh I uh I understand that. You know, mm, I've talked about my 20s. I've brought this up many times. I've done a lot of things in my 20s, and that's why I don't have as many brain cells as I used to. Though oddly enough, when I was in high school, I was really like, oh, I would never touch anything, like even like a cigarette or alcohol or whatever, because I want to finish school first. I was that nerd, folks. I really was. Um, and all we did was play Dungeons and Dragons. uh,
I
but I get, what that. I get what it's like um, to not do anything wholesome in the evenings, and wishing that, yeah, I wish I was just playing D&D. Yeah.
There is an overlap though, I think, on the same things. Like you're looking for an element of escapism. You're looking for
Yeah. Yeah.
something to have your brain focus on. And I mean, certainly if it's a role playing game, I think you're looking to connect to genuine emotions somewhere
Yes.
inside of you or with somebody else. So I do think all of those things are similar in desires
They.
to
Wow.
wanting to potentially go out, do drugs, and drink with friends.
Yeah.
That's why this is also addictive.
It
But
really is.
I mean, it's played a part. I mean, once Steven and I met, CastleMac Steven, for those of you guys who don't know, I mean, we've been playing together for a decade, and most of that was just him and I, because nobody else wanted to play, so it was just one-on-one games. But
Right. Right.
we mostly did White Wolf game
Oh.
systems, and to this day, there's some of the best stories I've ever experienced. And like a mandala, the wind has blown the sands away, and nobody will ever know about them, and
Hmm.
that's okay too.
Yeah. Um. Oh, that's lovely. I love that. I'm a big fan of, obviously, like I ran a number of vampire one shots. I'm a big fan of that. Storyteller type uh, system. Um, I like to, to have those times where you have a very story-heavy, rules-light game where you're not really thinking about all the clunkiness and whatnot. It's really just about like what's inside your brain and connecting with the people around you and what they come up with. It's tabletop RPGs. It's one of those things that everybody that plays them, um, it's you get a sense of fulfillment because you get to be creative and you also get to share the experience with other people, and you can't really do it by yourself. It doesn't work that way, and that's what makes it so fantastic. At least in my opinion.
No, I think there's also that, yeah, there's the critical thinking aspect though, that the rules that are in there also help you because you have to think within some boundaries. So you can be incredibly creative, but you have to have some bounds of what to do. And Craig said it earlier. There's a game, there's a genre, there's a crunchiness or a rules light, and I do think that you can get both the role playing and a mechanically heavy game. They're not mutually exclusive. I believe that you can absolutely have both.
No, I definitely agree there. That's for sure. And I do like a good rule. I do. But yeah, you know. So so we've talked about our introductions to tabletop role playing, and and I'll just throw it out there. Chat is hopping. And I try to check it out, and everything, and try to keep up with it. And if you do have a question for anybody, or if you have a question for the group, especially, please go ahead and post it in chat. We will try to get that up and asked. But what I'd like to do here is, oh, right. Before we go any further, we are giving away some dice because this is a show about tabletop role-playing games, so why not throw some dice up on the tabletop? And these are, I'm trying to remember the name, specifically Acid something, but they are like these semi-translucent green dice that they're not coming up great on that screen, but there was a picture on Twitter. I took a really good one. It's really beautiful. I have 2 sets of these. So we're going to give away 1 set now. And Craig, if you could give me a word for the folks in chat to type to enter the giveaway.
And now the author in me is like picking out like 5-syllable words to just try to be a jag, and make people spell things correctly. But we'll go since we were just talking about first experiences. Let's just use the word first.
Okay.
Can we?
Well, it's something we don't want repeated. Well, we can do first. Just only type like hold on. Let me get that in there. Okay, go ahead. Type first. Only type it once, and yeah, we'll get this rolling pretty soon here. And I will, because there is a slight delay from me talking and the chat room, I will type in a little warning just before I do the drawing. So type first, and we'll get that going. So with that rolling along, one of the things so folks, I like to dig, research and stuff like that. My guests before they come on the show. I was doing some digging. I was poking around Twitter and the Twitches and the things, and so I knew about this person. I am now obsessed with this person known as Little Red Dot. I am completely obsessed now. She's been running your newest game, Capers, which is available on DriveThruRPG, and there is information on DriveThruRPG right now that is free to download so that you can learn about the game before you buy it. So I suggest you run and go do that now. It's under Nerdburger Games. But she's been running this, and I'm telling you, looking at the production value of everything she's doing on that channel, and I didn't even look at the other things that she's on. We are, oh my God.
Yeah, Dot plays in a lot of streamed games, a lot.
Yeah, I knew this, but
and then she's doing her own, where she's doing like mini campaigns right now. She started up.
Yeah.
She's running capers right now for 4 sessions. There's one more left to go on this coming Wednesday.
Okay.
It's the exciting conclusion. Al Capone has just come to town, and the characters are currently wanted for murder. And last month, a month or so ago, she ran a Fate game that was based around the Anchorman movie.
Yes.
Where and she's got a YouTube channel out there too, so you can go back and watch the old ones. And that was built around the idea that she the anchor people had been captured, and had been kidnapped, and all the characters all the players were portraying like crew members, like the costume designer and the set designer and the camera person and so forth, and they had to get the figure out what happened to the anchors and get them back on before the that evening news, or like all of a sudden you have no anchors, you don't have your award-winning anchor team, and now she just started up doing a thing with Witch Girl Adventures, which is featuring an entirely female cast of witches.
Wow.
So
yes,
she's rocking it, and she's a great GM, and she's a lot of fun, and you should check out Little Red Dot. Her Twitch channel.
Yeah, I am like, seriously, the production value, I'm like, okay, we're all phoning it in, folks. Like, all of us, like, with our Twitch channels, we're phoning it in. Like, she is slaying it right now. It is, holy cow. And Mets is the winner.
Yeah,
Mets.
Woo!
Hey,
God, I was muted. Yay!
Hey, Mets. Congratulations. I'm going to send you some dice. Again? Maybe. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, did I send her dice before? I think I sent her dice before. I don't know.
Yeah, CastleMac said rigged.
Yeah, well, CastleMac, since you brought that up, this second set of dice I'm holding on to. We're going to give this away during Adventure Engineers. So stick around, folks. This is a twofer, okay? But
that bad attitude is being rewarded. You shouldn't do that, Matty.
I can't punish him for not knowing I was going to do it anyway, so,
I can punish him. Let's talk afterwards. Tell me what you want me to do.
There we go. I also know his wife, so, there are things that can be done. What was I going to say? Oh, but hey, guess what? I have a third set of tabletop loot dice right behind me. I might give a second set of dice tonight during this particular show. So yeah, we'll stay tuned, folks.
Guys, could I get a quick overview from Craig? We get just a quick overview of capers?
Yeah,
I'm interested. I just wanted a bit.
Yeah, definitely want to bring this up, and I definitely want you to tell us about capers, because I was reading some of the information, and I find this really fascinating. And like I had mentioned to you just today, I'm like, I think I might want to set up a one-shot. I know a lot of people that like to do this kind of stuff, and I'm sure there are people like in this very chat, on this very screen that would want to be involved. So tell us about the capers, please.
Capers is it's tagged as a superpowered game of gangsters in the Roaring '20s. So it's basically Al Capone era, Prohibition era gangsters, but you happen to have superpowers, and they're not world-bending, mind-destroying superpowers. They're kind of mid to low range. Think X-Men B Team kind of powers, and so you can play gangster characters who are struggling to build their empire, to live that, kind of that lifestyle during an era when alcohol was illegal in pretty much every respect, and in the United States. And or you can also, it's all set up in there too that you can play members of law enforcement, and you can fight that losing battle. And
I saw that.
Bootleggers and and rum runners and so forth. So it's built around the game book is full of setting information, so it gives you a rundown of kind of like what the 1920s is all about, a whole bunch of backdrop information you can that you can build out and play, like significant backdrop information on New York, Atlantic City, and Chicago, as well as a bunch of other one-page kind of write-ups for a bunch of other cities, all sorts of info. And the game itself functions on a playing card mechanic rather than dice. Everybody has a deck of playing cards, and when you make a trait check, you will have one or more cards that you can flip one at a time. And each time you flip a card, you decide whether you're going to stick with that card or try for something better. And so it basically, each trait check becomes like a little bit of a gambling game. The pip value of the card determines success versus failure. And the suit of the card determines the degree of success or failure. Oh. So you could flip a king of clubs, and a king is very, very good, so it's probably successful, but clubs is the worst suit.
Right.
So there's a complication that comes with it. So you can stick with that, or you could flip another card and hope to get a successful card with a better suit, but potentially fail in the process. So there's like
I'm intrigued.
A little bit of a gamble in every trait check that you make, and everything about a particular trait check is built into one card. You're never like flipping to hit and then flipping to damage. Your hit and damage are built into there together. So like if you flip and you hit, you have a card that's going to be a hit like a queen. You want a good suit ideally because you'll get more damage out of it. If you have low damage, you might decide, well, I think I can get some better damage out of that by flipping more cards, but I might end up with a 4.
Right.
And it ends up being a failure because I run out of cards to flip.
Yeah.
Then a 4 of spades is better than a 5 of clubs, technically, yeah?
Technically, yes, because basically the suits go worst is clubs, alphabetically up to spades. So spades is always best. So yeah, you could like even when you fail, it's degree of success or failure. So like a failure with clubs is a botch. And something very bad happens, not only in addition to just failing. A failure with spades in the game is referred to as motivation, where you still fail, but you gain a point of moxie, which is a currency in the game, a point system that you must use on your next turn or you lose it. So you're encouraged to. And you can use moxie to gain various sorts of advantages, and so you get that point. You have to use it next turn or you lose that one.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the concept for this mechanic come from?
I had designed a game called Murders and Acquisitions before, which had a very simple dice system. Mm-hmm. And so when I was starting to work on Capers, I thought like, okay, maybe I take Murders and Acquisitions and retool that and, develop that further. Or maybe I just find will this work with Savage Worlds or Fate System, or, toyed with some ideas. But I just, as a designer, I found myself kind of wanting to challenge myself with something that I hadn't done before. And so the original Deadlands game used playing cards for some of its mechanics, but still used dice a lot. So I thought, well, what about playing cards? And I just kind of toyed around with different ideas about like, well, what are the different things you can do with cards? You can build hands, you can choose which cards you play, you can do random flips, you can set cards, you can pull cards and set them aside and flip them later. And there's just I looked at a bunch of different things, and I kind of eventually settled on the idea of this kind of little mini gambling mechanic.
Wow.
After basically I brought it to a local convention. At the end of the convention, I sat down with 3 people and we just tried it out to see if the system seemed to have legs. And it did. I felt like, okay, this is something I could kind of build. And so, then I spent the next year and a half developing and playtesting it.
Yeah, a lot goes into that. Wow, that is okay. Yeah, so folks, if you're interested, we're gonna put together a one shot, definitely.
Excellent.
what was funny when I first started to read, like, just like the introduction to the game itself, it was basically like, okay, like, you have, extraordinary abilities and stuff. Like, okay, all right. You play gangsters. And I was like, huh, that's different. It's very different for me because if anybody who knows me, I'm basically just I'm sunshine and rainbows and barfy hearts, heart hand, yada yada. That's me in a nutshell. I am a dork that is super positive all the time. So the idea of playing or playing like everyone's a gangster and stuff like that, Prohibition 20s sounds fascinating and um, yeah, and I want to come up with something to give gangsters hell because being part of a gang, folks, it's not good. It's not good.
Stay out of gangs, kids.
Yeah.
Instead, just play games where you pretend to be gangsters for a little while.
Right. Because make believe is a happy place.
I've come to realize that I don't write games about heroic characters. Technically, you can do the law enforcement thing with capers, but really the when I designed it, it was kind of for the idea of playing gangsters. The previous game, Murders and Acquisitions, is all about playing people working at a company who are scratching their way up the corporate ladder by whatever means they can, and then I just kickstarted a game that emulates a horror comedy movie where your character's going to die. So it's just mostly about, you can play kind of a heroic character, but a lot of people just play tend to turn their characters into like the jerks that you kind of expect. Like, okay, well, they kind of deserved it to get killed by the monster, right?
All right,
nothing strictly heroic yet. We'll see. One of these days, maybe I'll do a game that's all about heroes.
That is, yeah, because I was looking at other things, and yeah, I was reading Murders and Acquisitions, going, okay, there's a theme here. It's a little darker, a little edgier. Which, hey, I'm still, I may be sunshine and rainbows, but I love me some Vampire the Masquerade. So Matty's got a dark side. It's small, but it's there. So,
The happy ones always do.
yeah.
Now we know that you have a deep well. Now you're like, it's just a little bit. We now know you've revealed yourself.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm an open book. I'm fine. I don't have any secrets. Yeah, I've got tons of secrets. Anyway. So Brad, we talked about how you play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, mostly at home, or like in real life, or IRL, as we like to say on the Twitters and the internets and things. Because yeah, I'm hip like that. God, I'm not. So you and your friends have been working on a D&D podcast.
Yeah.
Called Dungeons and Swear Words.
Yep.
I want to hear all about this. Please tell me more, and tell me about Snacks.
Snacks is, well, he's a kobold hexblade warlock. He's kind of the mind. He's a paladin, and I will be multiclassing into paladin eventually. But yeah, he's a bit Jehovah's Witness, and he's also the group tank. Yes, The warlock is the party tank.
Sometimes they are.
It's been going about as well as you'd expect. No, we kind of play in my basement here, so we went, hey, we have a private setting, we can do that, and everybody was for it. And so then we started recording, and our DM has been editing. The only thing that is really holding us back at the moment is nobody's doing their homework for finding us some theme song or just a little intro blurb, and nobody likes my totally sounds like I ripped it off from Star Trek opening that I always liked. But, eh.
I mean, you've already sold me. You
Right.
had Star Trek.
I know.
I just like that brass and really bright, but it doesn't really fit. And I get where they're coming from with that.
Yeah.
But we have a half-orc monk who the only person in the group he likes is our druid. And that's actually a ton of fun. He's just very grumpy. Playing with a Circle of Dreams druid and a wizard who has multi-class. He splashed some rogue. He has a very low con score, so that's entertaining.
Oh.
And then I can't remember what Valyria is. Rogue and something.
All right.
Yeah. I know the other people at the table very well, clearly.
How many sessions have you guys played?
Oh, we have plenty. I think we're around 20 now. We started back in May. We missed a couple weeks in there. And then there's one episode that is lost to history. We were helping the local convention test out some video equipment.
Okay.
And the video worked okay. The audio was garbage. So that episode is gone.
Ah, okay. I get that. Yeah. We there's like most of Threads of Fate gone. Just into the ether. We don't have any of it. We have a few of the early episodes. That's about it. But so I understand the loss. But 20 sessions in, and no one's picked a song. Like,
yeah, there was about a week there where briefly we were tossing around some ideas, and then nobody liked anything anybody suggested.
Okay.
And then it just went quiet.
Right.
And I started poking the bear again the other day after I talked to you, actually.
All right.
But yeah, it's very. I mean, it's called Dungeons and Swear Words for a reason. It's not that we're going out of our way to do it, but it's very unfiltered.
Sure. I remember a point in my life when that's just how I was, so I get that. But like I said, you spend enough years around a 70-something-year-old woman from Connecticut, you just kind of start to filter yourself and say things like fudge and jeepers. Okay?
You grow up doing volunteering at a local Christian summer camp or attending it, one or the other. Yeah, you get a filter. It comes back every once in a while.
This actually kind of gives a little segue here. Sean, one of the things when I was doing research, as I do on all my guests, there was a big Twitter gap that you had recently.
Yeah.
And I know that you brought this up briefly, but I didn't really get to talk to you about it. But it's the schooling that you have been going through. Did I read that right? Is that monastic?
Oh no.
What?
I was just saying that it's a monastic life.
Oh, okay. Wow. I seriously,
Wow. Yeah.
I'm like sitting there going
I'm
like.
glad you brought that up. A bunch of people probably think I'm in seminary.
I was like, what is Sean going through? That he's like.
No, I do all my school online.
Okay.
So most of the time I'm just at the house when I'm working or late. So I'm just have headphones on and I'm on this exact computer doing work. But no. So
it's really just, like real life focus, and school is, especially as you get older, it
Yeah.
is a lot. It takes a lot more of your energy and stuff to, stay focused. I totally
It's
get
that
that.
funny trade-off. Like I learned the discipline and I have less time at the set, like just objectively less time, but I learned discipline. So you're like,
You
all
learn the
right,
discipline. Yeah.
I'm still just borrowing from Peter to pay Paul with time. It's all allocation of time, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm feeling a lot better because I felt like if that was something you were doing, I should have known something. I was like, wow, I am not taking an interest here, like at all. If I don't know what's going on here.
I think everybody would be pretty shocked if that was the route I was going. That's a funny thing about like where you trade off in role playing games and real life, where like real life, like an atheist, like a Hitchens level atheist, and in a lot of D&D games, I play incredibly pious, devout, devoted characters that are like, is this what my God would want me to do? Okay, that is the realm on which I will act out of this, and
Yeah.
it's pretty fun.
And it really, yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's strange. I think what ends up happening is I will start a character like not being like me, and then the character eventually just like becomes more like me. Like in real life, over time, I keep finding. Um, I think except for like with one major exception, but um, because I'm not normally like a grumpy person. I play a hobgoblin, and he's a grumpy asshole, but he's like starting to like care about his friends and things, and I'm like, oh, that is such a Matt thing. Like, it's like, why am I bleeding into my character? Like, oh, okay.
I mean, but it's always like an avatar of yourself or some part of yourself
Yeah,
that
it really
somewhere along the
is.
line you
Yeah.
you made it up, so it's in there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there is a separation where like I played a character who's gone bad and is now our legitimate main homegrown villain in our world. And I mean, he didn't start out that way. It was like an exploration that I wanted to like look at. Like I kind of wanted to look in the D&D where like there is like kind of inherent racism, like just kind of built in. It's like, oh, you're a red dragonborn, you're evil. Like, oh, are you a tiefling? Yeah, you're evil.
Oh, okay.
These are good. I mean, not that everybody plays that way, but it is just naturally built in. And I'm like, what if I had a red dragonborn and he was kicked out of the war? He's a good guy, but nobody let him fight. Everybody hates him. Like, and I mean, it was just a setup that I wanted to explore. He ended up turning bad, but there was plenty of time that he was a hero. I mean,
Yeah.
but that was kind of what I wanted to keep on the edge. It's like there were a lot of opportunities that he had things gone differently. I think he could have continued to be a hero, but a handful of other things happened that I don't know. It's fun to play with having a character that people are like, yeah, but he definitely turned bad, and he always would have. It's like I don't know. I based it on the decisions.
And that's kind of just how characters really develop. Is really just circumstance that your character finds themselves in, and whatever decisions that you decide to make at the time can really set a course, for the future and what becomes. I'm a big fan of the long game, where you get to play this one character out for a long period of time, and you basically watch. When you look back later, you get to watch them grow and change, and the character is like never anything like that first level character. Even if you wrote a backstory and stuff like that, or a setup, like
Those first couple sessions are just wet cement. I
Yeah.
mean, like it doesn't matter if I wrote 3 pages of a backstory, if I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna play a fighter. right now, and he's an elf. I mean, it doesn't matter until you get into those first bits, and we've tried to start doing less explaining our characters and like immediately jumping into some scene, some narrative. Like we're not even going to give the whole backstory. It's like right now, here's this. And I think Steven did it super well with our Waterdeep campaign. It immediately opened with just like of characters going through. It was almost a little frenetic and cinematic, and I felt my character that way because I was like, I haven't said anything about this character except to the DM. So I'm now reacting.
And I think that's, I mean, because it's going to happen anyway. You know, that's basically how the characters end up. You become what you become based off circumstances, based off playing and whatnot. So you can write that backstory and all that stuff, but you know, it's like I had a character. I have a character that has a criminal background, but he's a cleric. Well, he has a proficiency in deception. He's a terrible liar. Terrible. Because I am a terrible liar. And I'm terrible at it. And I can't roleplay lying very well. And I'm like, that was a waste. Like, that was a silly ass waste of time. Like, writing all that and setting all that up. I can't do that, you know? Like, so, I don't know. It's the characters just become something else, you know? And I love that idea of just starting, just going and just letting, because it really is, those first few sessions really tell the tale. So I don't know if boy oh boy. Now I may have missed a question because
because that chat's buck wild. That chat is buck wild.
That chat is bumping. And I am really fascinated by what my guests are saying, and I'm really trying to like look at them and not chat. So I hope I didn't miss anything. And I really do, for the first time in a number of episodes, I need to keep track of time. Because we are heading over to CastleMac for their show at 9:30 Eastern. So we still have some time, but I just like remembered. I'm like, ooh, how are we doing? We're doing great. So one of the things that I was curious about is, no, that's it. So Craig, I brought up the fact that you do a podcast early on in the introduction. But you aren't just doing a podcast. You guys have done 298 episodes?
Recorded 299, number 299 today, yeah.
Bam! Like, kaplow, people! Like, what? That is insane. I am enamored by this because this is like a weekly podcast, right?
New episode every single Wednesday for going on 6 years.
Wow.
Have not missed a single Wednesday in that time.
So you
basically my podcast co-host and my friend Mike and I, we have both come to the decision that neither one of us wants to be the one that F's it up. And causes an episode to be missed because we can't record or Mike can't get it edited and posted or whatever. So we're both just like fighting against being the failure.
Wow.
so yes, 5.5 years of every single Wednesday.
So like not a week missed?
Not a single one.
Wow. Okay. Now that right there is probably the most impressive thing, because I have friends that do podcasts. I have friends. I've been honored to be able to be a temporary co-host of the Nerdy Point of View podcast, and like, I mean, that is hard that is really difficult to get it out every week, not miss a week, because editing a podcast and getting together and getting recorded and everything involved. But like, go ahead and tell us about the podcast called The Nerdburger Show, correct?
Yeah, it's the Nerdburger podcast. It's nerdburgershow.com. It's me and my friend Mike, and it's sort of a weekly potpourri of nerdy, geeky discussion. We go all over the place on all sorts of different topics. We have a different co-host, guest on the show with us every week. There's like a group of people that rotate around regularly, and then we have special guests in there every so often. And so we hit on just the whole gamut of topics. It runs about an hour, sometimes longer, if we have certain guests that get really verbose, and we can just kind of sit back and let them roll. So sometimes episodes get longer, but yeah, it's usually an hour at least. And it's very conversational, and it's all very slathered over with a pretty healthy dose of humor. It's intended to be a comedic, entertaining kind of listen in on some people just having a conversation about geeky, nerdy stuff.
Geeky, nerdy stuff. Heaven. That's what I call it. Geeky, nerdy stuff is heaven. Oh.
Yeah, it becomes, it's you make the comment about 5.5 years episode, a new episode every week, and that's, admittedly, there's been times when I didn't think we were going to hit that, where sometimes things just kind of get in the way. But it's also, this is our excuse to just sit down and just, like, without any other thing getting in the way, without suddenly being interrupted by this or that. Every week we have an opportunity to just sit down and kind of nerd out with each other over whatever it is we want to talk about. And it gives us a good opportunity to bring friends in, to talk to people like from other parts of the country that we, don't necessarily see on a regular basis. So we have guests from, like, where I grew up in Wisconsin. My friend Mike has a friend out in Virginia who is on regularly, just a way to kind of stay in touch with those people as well. So it's, there's work involved in setting it up, and there's work involved in getting edited and out the door and posted and everything. But the process of doing it is just like a joy, because we just love having that excuse to just geek out on something for a while.
Having that excuse,
and we compete with each other and just try to make each other laugh.
There you go. That's what a good friend does. Like, you riff, if you can. And it is kind of sad sometimes that the people we pick on the most are the people we love the most generally. But I mean, it makes for good comedy, that's for sure.
Somebody in the chat remarked, where did it go? Not 1 week lost to tech problems ? That's a miracle. It's kind of a unicorn. What actually happened was there were 2 tech problems. We had, at one point, very early, this was all in like the first couple dozen episodes, we had an in-studio guest. For some reason or another, the microphones we were using weren't picking us up, and we started getting recorded through the microphone in one of the laptops. And so for me and Mike, we were sitting close to the laptop, so it wasn't too bad. But the other guy is sitting a little further away, so his voice he has a deep projecting voice, but it still kind of sounded a little tinny. And so, like, there's this one episode where the audio is a little weird. And then we had one episode where everything blew up on us, and we had to go back and try to re-record all the funny, like basically recreate what we had just done. And we had all these really great funny bits and moments where we had managed to surprise each other and make each other laugh, and we kind of like, yeah, that didn't quite work so well trying to do it the second time. And we still managed to keep it interesting, but we lost the spontaneity of the first one. But we've got it down to a science now where Mike keeps a very close eye on the waveform and making sure that, it doesn't look weird, make sure that it's like clearly it's picking up microphones and the Skype connection or the Hangouts connection or whatever we're using. So yeah, tech problems, we've managed to avoid it mostly.
That's really amazing. Because having to redo something that was funny. No, you're never gonna laugh the same way. You're never gonna react the same way. So I know that there. I don't even know if this was a question for the panel here, but this is a good question because I'm a big fan of doing voices when I play D&D. So when you guys are role playing, how are you? Are you the type that tries to make use a unique voice for your character each time for each character, or and I know some people who really just aren't. Um, are you maybe one of those people that you just kind of like you have your voice is pretty similar for just about everything you play? And I think why don't we start with Brad?
Well, that's something I want to do a lot of, but I personally think I'm not good at it. The Starfinder game, I'm going more for a speech pattern, a lot of halting. Maybe this won't work so well, guys.
Oh, right.
Just so you can discern when I'm talking and when my character's talking. But then on Thursday, I'm playing Snacks, and he's great. And he talks like that all the time.
Oh, I love
Hell
it.
yeah.
I love it.
I like them both.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. I
was originally going to try to do a bit more bit gravelly, but I can't do the high and that for any duration.
Okay.
I'd die.
Right. That's awesome. I love a good high voice for a little guy. And I'm a big fan of kobolds, obviously.
You come up with all these badass lines that your big sword wielding paladin can say, and then you realize, oh wait, they're going to be said in that voice.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome. Sean, what about you, bud?
Yeah, no, I do voices pretty much throughout. Yeah, each character has a unique voice. Not that all of them are. Well, compared to the past couple characters, yeah, they fluctuate pretty high depending on it, and I try to have it match the personality a bit. I think I have a big, sweet Goliath, so he's like just slow and earnest in speech. I've got a tiefling bard who's more in whispers and some witty repartee, and then Caecilius, who turned bad, had a pretty gravelly voice. Sometimes I do a nondescript European accent, but I was Rudolph Van Richten in Strahd, so I did my best to have that real heavy, by God, we must go.
Yeah. That's not an easy
NPCs run together. I try to have each really individual. And sometimes that's really easy if you're having players deal with just one. You're like, I can focus this. But sometimes if there's multiple ones they're dealing with in the same session, it's difficult to not have it all kind of roll into the same nondescript accent.
I think you can only go so far sometimes, especially when you're running a game and you've got a large number of NPCs. Your brain is moving in 50 different directions and trying to stay on voice for every individual one. Yeah, that could be really taxing and difficult to do. Craig, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I try to do something with the voice at least some of the time. Okay. It certainly doesn't always work out that way. I've been known to do an Irish brogue every now and then. And sometimes it's just, there's no accent, but it's like just in the delivery of playing Sir Roderick Blunt, everything was a little bit too officious because he was a little too proud of himself all the time. And then sometimes it just becomes, in like with capers, the great thing about that is you've got 1920s slang. So you can just slip in words like flapper and bimbo. and get a wiggle on, and that fella zazzled. And if you go to the back of the Capers book, there's 2 pages of glossary of slang terms, and there's like 6 or 7 different terms for getting drunk. And just pepper stuff like that in there. I never got a chance really to play. I played a little bit of Planescape. I wish I could have gotten to see a little bit more of that in some of the fantasy games I've played. Like Planescape had a whole glossary of of terminology, and I never really got a chance to play too much of that. But certainly in games, it doesn't always have to be an accent type of thing, but just finding the parlance of the game and making sure that pops in every so often can be useful.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree there.
I do a little bit of all of it. It kind of depends. I mean, right now in Capers, I'm playing a Cajun man. He from down in the bayou. That we played in Louisiana, down in Norland, and so it just sometimes I find something that's fun and I go with it, and sometimes it's just like, okay, well this person sounds like me.
Yeah.
And they have to. The only problem I see is like sometimes you have to be careful that if you don't give them the accent, they just assume it's a throwaway character, like the players will. As a GM, if I just talk like me, they're just like, oh, this is just a gate card that's never going to come back to haunt you. Right. So like every so often, give like the barkeep that is in the town that they're passing through, give that character a really interesting hook with a voice or affectations, and then make them wonder, oh, is this character going to come back? Like this? This is not necessarily just a throwaway bartender.
Right. That's like
there's a lot of ways to approach it.
Yeah, that is crack for a group of players. Seriously, they're just like they're looking for it, they want it, they're like, ooh.
They just want you to have to keep doing that voice in particular.
I've been there too.
There is that part too, which is fantastic. When your DM does a voice that you see them like literally struggling with. To get through the session, because either it's like really taxing on their throat or something like that, and you're just like, oh, we're going back to that NPC like right away, just
we have to figure out how to get that innkeeper to talk to this guard, because him trying to bounce between voices,
I mean,
and you watch people like oh man, what's his name? I'm blank. Billy West, who voices half the characters on Futurama, and he'll he can have conversations between his characters and just snap between the characters like that. And then you try to do it, and it's like, oh, that's really a skill. Like he has honed that skill. I am not good at that skill.
Yeah, I'm not so no. So. When I came up with the voice for Noakes, my little kobold cleric, I was like, I've got a really low register in my voice, naturally. And I was like, I can't really do a high accent, like a high voice. It's really difficult for me to do, especially as a player character. And so we were in our session 0, and someone said, well, go deep, or something like that. And so we started playing around with the voice, and it sounds like Christian Bale as Batman, and it was funny. It was like, oh my god, he's like a 2'8" kobold and he's got that voice. It's hilarious. Great. Then I go and play the Hobgoblin on another game, and it was all accident. I basically use almost the same voice. There are different inflections and different attitudes, but it's almost the exact same voice. And I was like, fuck, I screwed that up, but I can't change it now. It's like, so it's fine, but I do like to give a character a voice, especially because I like being able to talk as my character and then to talk as myself, and that tells everyone like I am out of character, like I didn't say that in character, or whatever. So yeah, they are all Batman. Noakes is an Erd, so he has wings and can fly. So yeah, kind of, sort of like a bat. So before we have to go here, which we will be heading out of here pretty soon in the next 15 minutes, I've got another set of dice to give away here on this show. We're going to save these bad boys for the next show coming up here in about 15 minutes. So these are also from Tabletop Loot. I'm a big fan of Tabletop Loot. Yes, loot for every table. As I said before, I am a Thread Raider, and they're sponsored by Tabletop Loot. So, and you get to know the guy behind the screen. He's a fantastic individual. He and his wife, they run a fantastic business, and you love these folks, So these, I can't remember what these are called, but they are pink and sparkly and glittery. I mean, these are like fabulous, okay? So, what we're going to do is, the word is going to be sparkles. So, yep, we can do it now. Go ahead and type sparkles in the chat, and you'll be entered to win sparkle dice.
Get those sparkles on, y'all.
So, yeah, we are getting close to the end of the show here. So what I'd like to do is just kind of go around, and I'd like y'all to just tell folks where they can find you on the internet and what you're up to. And we will start with Craig.
Hi, yeah, you can find me. My name's Craig Campbell. I'm the owner and lead designer at Nerdburger Games. You can find all what I'm working on there at nerdburgergames.com. There are links in there to the Discord, an invite for our little Discord. I'm Nerdburger Craig on Twitter. You can find the games themselves, the first two, Murders and Acquisitions and Capers, at DriveThruRPG. Die Laughing is was kickstarted back in November. That's the horror game that's in the works. That'll be available in a few months. And I'm moving forward right now, playtesting. Just got playtesting feedback returned to me for a supplement for Capers called Capers Noir, which will take the 1920s setting and move it into the 40s and shift from prohibition gangster stories into crime noir, with mysteries and investigations. And there's a horror element in the game as well. There's some dark stuff. There's some ghosts and monsters and things. And I'm giving a shot, taking a shot at seeing like if I can do a little supplement and if that's actually worth the time and effort for a little bitty game company like me. And if that one works, I've got ideas for 2 more. So we'll see what happens, but that's where all of that stands. So check them all out at all those places. And then the podcast is nerdburgershow.com.
Yes, and yeah, this coming Wednesday, check out episode 299. Man, that is something. Yeah, if you guys haven't, make sure you type sparkles, and we'll be clicking that really soon here. Brad, why don't you go ahead and tell the folks at home where they can find you and what you're up to?
Well, as was mentioned, I'm on Twitter a lot at the Elfiest Elf. I've been playing with an Instagram. If you like pictures of knives, the Elfiest Armory. Let's see, alternating Tuesdays, I'm over at the Thread Raiders Twitch playing Ntesh, the Shirin mechanic in our Starfinder game. And I have that podcast that I swear is coming out. The episodes exist. Some of them are even edited. They just need that intro music. We have web space. We've been paying for web space.
I know.
It's going to happen. And then on Sundays, I'm over at Atomic Panda 101, where we're playing some Cypher System. And I basically play Logan Paul in the future.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, him plus Bear Grylls, kind of, he's terrible, and I hate him. That's all.
Awesome. Okay, let me click that, and the winner is, oh, it's Miss Misery.
Yay!
Miss Misery,
Yeah, Miss.
you won some dice. Holla. Um, I love it. I love giving away dice. Let me just say awesome. And awesome. And Sean, if you want to tell the folks at home where they can find you on the internet and what you're up to.
Yeah, so you guys can find me at CastleMac Sean on Twitter. I've been slow getting back on here, so if you at me, I am trying to check it every day, but I am trying to keep up with everybody. So if I don't, sorry, I'm all over. But you can catch me typically playing at twitch.tv/CastleMac, where on Sundays we're doing Waterdeep Dragon Heist, though we're stretching that out far longer with a lot of other things, where I am a player. And then Tuesdays I DM, also at Castle Mac, what we call the Chronicles of Peril, which is a lot more kind of strung together adventures, though we are going to be doing an old module that I'm pretty excited about and people will recognize, but it's not often played, so
Really?
I'm pretty
Awesome.
stoked about it. But yeah, we do other games sometimes at with online with people in our Discord, so that's been pretty cool. And then tonight we've got the new thing going on, Adventure Engineers, because we Stephen and Kelsey from the Arcane Library want to just talk about where a game like an adventure writer ends and a DM picks up, and where's that kind of overlaying area and how you work together. And we've been playing all of the Arcane Libraries games. We love Kelsey, had her down. So I hope you guys tune in for that. It should be pretty dope.
And that is, I love the whole concept of that, and I love CastleMac. I love you guys. You know,
We love you.
you're all fantastic, and I am next week. Steven's on the show here, so yeah.
So don't feel like you guys gotta.
I'm getting through. Like
I'm just kidding.
getting through all of them. Yeah. So, Coach Andrew, guys, watch out. I'm gonna be hounding you pretty soon to also be on the show. Um, and honestly, I am Matty. You can find me on Soul Bear RPG Wednesdays and Fridays playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's twitch.tv/soulbearrpg. You can also find me here, like you're doing right now, on Twitter and everywhere as so many games. Um, I'm a big nerd. I get around, and I like people. So yeah, I'm very social.
He
Um,
also has a store that he doesn't talk about.
Oh God, I always forget to bring it up. Well, no, I don't, but I do forget to bring it up when I'm doing these outros and things like that on shows and things. Yeah, I run a store. It's called So Nerdware. It's my baby. I can't say most, because now that I have an online store, I have brought in other people, other amazing artists, to share their work with you also. Uh, like Joy Co, aka Dire Foxcorn, and Dumpstat Charisma, and my friend Carrie Lyons. So, but it's silly stuff on clothes and hats and tumblers and things, and yeah, it's just goofy stuff that we come up with for the tabletop nerd, because yeah, that's uh yeah, I don't know. You can go and yeah, it's a place to buy stuff. Okay, I hate talking about myself. So we're going to be heading over there pretty soon. Let me click over to our thank you screen where we will all still be here. Oh, there we are. Oh, everyone looks fantastic. Oh boy, Brad is a little low. Can I fix that? I don't know. Maybe. I can fix that a little bit. There we go. Hey, that's better. Oh, yeah, I had you all low, and then you were all low. Yeah, okay. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Craig, Sean, Brad, guys, thank you all for being on the show.
No, thanks for having me. And Craig,
Yeah.
Brad, I'm glad I got to hang out with you and hear about capers and your podcast, D&D and swear words too. I know we've interacted on Twitter as well, so I'm stoked to have been on here with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was cool meeting all you guys. I look forward to returning someday.
Awesome. And this is why I do the show. You know, it's like, especially when people have never met or talked and stuff like that. I like talking with my voice. It's so much easier than talking with my thumbs. Because
people can tell when I'm being a dumbass. Well, that's my normal setting, so you can just assume I'm sarcastic. But it's a good point. I love the Capers title, the superpower Capers. Yeah, I didn't catch that at first.
But they're not heroes. They're gangsters, folks.
Yeah, but each one of them has a virtue. That's part of the game.
Yeah.
Every character has a virtue and a vice, so you can still have a gangster with a heart of gold. Or
yeah, you know, and
they can be generous.
And I'm sure every gangster out there has a redeeming quality, you know, and everything like that. Something that every person has something good inside them. That's what I believe. I could be wrong, but I'm an optimist. And so we are going to. Oh gosh, now I need to remember, how do I do this? It's been a while since I've done a. I know it's over here somewhere. Raid. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Gosh, I haven't done this in a while. We are gonna go raid CastleMac now. And we're gonna stay tuned for their show, Adventure Engineering.